And you're listening to the Decatur Makers Podcast.
Yeah.
Bam, bam, bam.
We're in Georgia, y'all. Fiddle-dee-dee.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
Welcome.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're broadcasting from the only place in Decatur where you can make anything from a birdhouse to a photon beam flux capacitor thingy thing. It's the Decatur Makers Hour.
Hey, this is Maureen Haley. I just woke up, but I'm glad to be here on the podcast.
What's up, peeps? This is Shar Miller King, also known as the Wood Maven on the interwebs.
Hey, this is Kevin Arna, and I promise that is sawdust, not dandruff.
Well, good morning, makers. Hey, what are you guys working on? Anything good?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
An apple turnover.
Now, is that the thing that you're chewing right now? And that's what you mean by working on it? Or
That is what I'm chewing. I'm on this weight gain plan where I'm trying to gain weight. So I eat as many carbs as I can. And then like midnight snack is usually 2 to 3 cookies and like 3 scoops of ice cream. It's not going well. I think I've gained maybe half a pound.
got to get those numbers up.
It's not working?
It's not working.
You got to throw some Girl Scout cookies in there.
That's right, because it's Girl Scout cookie time. I am working on an extension for my workbench because I need more space to work. I finally realized that I may have too many tools.
No.
Is there such a thing as too many tools?
Well, when you get the side eye from your spouse about not being able to pull the car inside, that may be like the first sign that you have a problem.
That's not too many tools. That's too little garage.
That's what I said. That is exactly what I said.
Or the car is too big. I mean, could be that too.
See, I like the way you guys think.
Time to downsize. Maybe an e-bike. Maybe he could ride an e-bike.
I know, right? What about you, Maureen? What are you up to?
Wow. I have been doing some video work. Like for the Decatur Makers onboarding, we have a little video, animated video that we use for our COVID protocols and things, and that needs updated. So I've been working on that. And then I made some YouTube videos for my Raspberry Pi projects last year. And so I've recorded like a thank you for anyone who watched it and some response to the feedback video. So I need to edit that. And that's what I've been working on.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very
What
nice.
about you, Kevin?
Well, I've been working full time, so I've been having trouble finding time to make, which I think we're going to talk about later. But my interest lately has been in machining. So I've been trying to dial in my milling machine so that it actually cuts the way it's supposed to cut. And I've started a first really machining project of making a little vise for holding circuit boards while you solder them. So that's what I'm working on.
Very cool.
Nice.
So wait, you have a milling machine?
I have a bench top one. Many folks would not even refer to that as a milling machine. That's more of a toy. But, it fits in my garage. So the car still fits too.
Lucky you, jealous. But you have a milling machine that I'm sure comes in a lot of, it helps in just prepping raw lumber, right?
Oh, by milling machine, I mean like a drill press that has a table that moves back and forth and can side cut through like metal. So not quite that kind, not quite a lumber milling machine.
Oh, for metal work. Okay.
Yeah, it's for making small, really precise parts.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
You don't pop up on my Instagram anymore.
I don't post very much anymore. I've been busy, but my latest post is on something I milled. It's just a plain block of aluminum, not actually that interesting looking, but I'll be posting more soon.
Okay. I'll be on the lookout.
All right.
Fascinating the precision that those instruments can get to. I don't usually make anything that needs to be that precise, but it's fun to watch videos of it.
Yeah.
Were we going to talk about time to make or finding time to make? I went through my notes and couldn't remember I know we decided on what to talk about, but I didn't remember what it was.
Yeah, I think it was finding time to make things in a otherwise busy life.
All right. Well, we're all making, so.
Barely. Well, as you guys know, and maybe everybody else listening may not know, that I do have 4 young children that require 810% of my attention and time. And I think initially I didn't want them involved. I just wanted to get done with what I had to do. But what I have found is allowing them the opportunity to learn from me and get involved with what I'm making and just interweave them into my career, because the line between career and motherhood is very blurry. And instead of trying to separate them, I just had to combine them. And since I did that, I didn't make the decision. I think it just happened. Life has run a little bit more smoothly for me. And what I found out, because I am on social media a lot, the internet loves my kids. So guess what? I'm going to milk it for all it's worth while I can, while they're still somewhat manageable and adorable. And it's been great. I recently started teaching online classes for beginner woodworkers just to get them acclimated to some of the terminology that may not come along with your traditional DIY working with wood, but actual learning about wood and not just power tools, but hand tools. And there were no other adults around, so I had to practice my presentation with my children. And it was amazing just to see the natural reaction and interaction that we had throughout this discussion. And something told me just prop the phone up on the dining room table, and I just hit record and let the conversation go. And then I decided to post it. And oh my gosh, the reaction that I got from everybody was just, it was incredible. People sent me some very nice notes. There was a guy, I don't know him. He sent me a message, and it was a lengthy message where he said it was so nice to see families together doing things like that, and just the natural joy. I never give my children direction when I turn on the camera, because I don't want them to live their life for a camera or for social media for that matter. So I just let it be. So there was one who was jumping off the banister in the background. One was cutting another kid's neck with a plastic ruler. And I'm like, this is my life, guys. This is my real life. The guy was very nice. And I was like, oh, that was very thoughtful. Thank you. And he messaged me back. He said, I don't want you to think I'm weird by sending you that note. And then he's long explanation as to why he didn't want it to be weird. He goes, well, I hope I didn't just make it weirder by saying sorry for if I made it weird. I'm like, no, it's cool. It's cool. I know things are hard for people everywhere. I think right now we're all looking for hope, right? Hope that the pandemic will end and our lives will return to some form of normalcy. So there's no balance, basically. Just all goes together.
That is cool. I think if someone puts something joyful online, it's cool that he reached out and said, hey, this is joyful.
Yeah, totally. So I want to know how you find time, Maureen, because you travel every week for work, right?
I do. I'm traveling. I go out of town at the beginning of the week and work through the week and come back on the weekend. And the way I find time is to schedule it. I heavily use my Google Calendar. There's a lot of Zoom meetings scheduled every night. And there's a little window between getting out of work late and walking the dog and the first Zoom meeting. At least I don't have 4 kids, just a little dog to walk. I think Kevin uses the getting things done productivity system. Also, I find that if I write down, like it feels like I have too much, and I feel like if I write it all down, I could see that it's a finite amount of things I want to do. And honestly, there's not enough hours to do them all. And so then I just rearrange the priority. But there are some things that go by the wayside that I really wish, like, oh gosh, I really want to do that, but I haven't been able to move it up in priority yet. Like one of these videos I've been working on has been, all right, it was going to be the end of the year video, but it might be the end of year 2022 video, the way things are going. I don't know. Yep, I just keep lists of them, lists of all the stuff, and try to do the next little thing.
You know what I struggle with? I struggle with motivation sometimes. because it seems like
Mm.
there's so many things to do. And I'm just like, I don't even know where to start. So finding that motivation to just get up and start working, sometimes it's a struggle for me, especially in the winter. I get the winter blues.
Yeah. The days are shorter.
Just what I need, less time.
Yeah, I think I struggle with focusing on things to make, like focusing on one project. And I'll often get stuck too. Often when I find that I don't have the motivation, it's because I haven't broken it down into enough small steps where the next step feels doable. So yes, I still definitely do the whole getting things done methodology, at least to some degree, in terms of thinking of next actions and keeping a project list that maybe doesn't have next actions on it. I think that my growing edge on this is focus, being able to focus on just one project and feeling like I'm making some progress on it, rather than the 300 projects that are on my list of projects I would like to do, or looking at the next shiny thing. Or I find that really tough, the maker ADD, so to speak.
Oh, it's real. It's very real. I've got it very bad. That's why I think you said 300 projects. I probably have 500 unfinished projects in the midst of us trying to renovate our house. And one would think that I would take on renovating my own house, but it's funny. I have no interest in renovating my own home. I'd rather pay somebody else to do it because I know I would take forever. I know myself. It would take me a year to finish the project.
Oh, yeah. Could totally relate to that. Who can I pay to do this while I do that?
Exactly. Delegate. That's one thing I've learned since entering my 40s. Pay somebody else to do it. Delegate, delegate, delegate.
I was also thinking, for me with makerness, a lot of it is about doing stuff with other people. So no, you can't have the squeaky toy. Get down.
We should put Dilly on the show. Put Dilly on the podcast. Dilly, what do you think?
Yeah, she's trying to get on. Is that I can do all this stuff alone, and I like to do it. I think it enriches me a lot. It teaches me things, and even though I limit my focus as well, it does help with it, But my maker stuff, I actually like the bits where it involves other people. And so even like this podcast, like I would rather be here chatting with you guys, find out what you're doing, than moving all the other things along that I need to do. And so I don't know. It's fun. I'm learning. I don't know how to make time for making, but we're learning.
Yeah, it's definitely an outlet, I think. And it's its own form of therapy when we have time to do it, when we make time. I don't think anybody has time. We have to designate time intentionally in order to get these things accomplished.
So Maureen, that's very interesting that you say that making things with other people is kind of the driver for you, because I think I'm in the opposite camp. Like I like hanging out with other makers and chatting about maker projects and sharing knowledge. But when I'm making something, I really don't want anybody else involved. Like I just want to kind of do it myself, have full creative control over the project. So that's an interesting difference that I hadn't thought about.
Would you say you're more of an introvert, Kevin?
Yeah, for sure. I'm 100% introvert. I can act like an extrovert when I'm around people that I know, but definitely introverted. What about you? Would you call yourself introverted, extroverted, biverted?
I've never heard of biverted before.
Or ambiverted, maybe is the word?
Probably so, because I can be extremely outgoing, but when I need my space, I have to shut everybody and everything else out. I mean, I grew up as the only child, so sometimes I do get overwhelmed if too many people are in my space and I just need a break or a clear head. But I do really enjoy being around people and talking to people. And I didn't realize it until, of course, 2020, when all of that stopped. And I'm just like, why do I feel this way? It's because I'm used to interacting with people and talking to people and sharing energy and receiving energy from other people. So I'm definitely a people person, but my closet is usually where I retreat when I need a moment to myself, and I lock the door. And then the kids slide notes under the door for what they need. And and I don't respond. Or if I do, say, go ask your father. So yeah, probably more extroverted than anything. Marine's a people person.
I don't think I'd say that. But when I'm making, I do prefer to be here at home where I know where things are. It frustrates me to no end to have to go searching for them, like when I'm at the makerspace or something. But I had the experience of sitting by myself in my basement doing things, and there doesn't seem to be as much purpose to it to me, unless I'm sort of sharing the phenomenon with other people, sort of thing. Like I don't need the affirmation, but I need the energy. And I don't need everybody to say, hey, that's great what you made. But I do like to go and ask what other people are making, and see them tangibly working on making things. It's like, oh, they're finding time.
Well, I do have to say, even though both of you may claim to be introverts, that you guys are both very helpful. You've both been very helpful to me on the various random projects that I've done over the years. You guys are both great resources, information, and very knowledgeable.
Well, thank you, Sharon. That's nice of you to say.
It's true.
And I know that
It's
I've very
true.
much valued your outgoingness, like at Workbench Con, where I was just kind of the quiet person in the corner and you pulled me in. It's extremely helpful. Very
Good. You should fly back out here. Well, maybe not.
helpful. I don't think I'm going to do it for this one. Maybe the next one.
Next year. Yeah. Next year.
Yeah.
From what I hear, there's going to be a lot of people there.
Yeah.
Nerve-wracking and exciting all in the same breath.
Yep. Those two tend to come together, for at least for me.
Yep. So I want to talk about how the pandemic has affected our ability to make. In addition to, of course, us just not having time or making time, but how has the pandemic affected your willingness, your ability to make?
Oh, I like that. Pandemic. Well, I've been working more, so that's cut. Also, some of the group activities, the group builds and things we did at our makerspace have been cut back a little bit. So I had the ability to really get involved in those when I was helping. I mean, I'm not responsible for those, but I was a little bit overly committed time-wise. So those have gone away. And other than that, it's the same old thing, amassment of materials for projects delivered to my door that I've never quite gotten around to doing.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know that the pandemic has affected my making at all, but I think I'm in a weird position for that because I tend to, like I said, I like to be kind of a solitary maker, and I have my own shop. So I can just sit kind of downstairs and hum along patiently myself and do my own thing, listening to an audiobook or something like that. And that hasn't changed very much, which is a little surprising.
Wow. I'm just picturing like what it's like to just go and make and no one call you.
Oh, it's nice.
But he still sits under the door.
I know. I can't even imagine. I think it actually changed like my entire trajectory when things started closing down and people started quarantining and isolating and just being home, because I was at the makerspace so much before, partly because I didn't have a lot of the tools at home that the makerspace had, but I still needed to work. I still had projects. This is when I was still taking on some commissions. So I ended up getting most of what we had at the makerspace at home. And it made me sad in a way. You would think that it would make you glad to acquire things, but it just goes to show you that things will never make you happy, right? It's the people in your life that really bring the most joy to you. And I realized that, like, oh yes, I finally got a CNC, which is not set up by the way yet. I finally got a table saw, got a glow forge, got all these things. Oh my gosh, you have so many tools. You're so cool. I'm like, yeah, but I don't have the chance to teach anybody how to use them. I'm talking to a camera as if there's an audience there, but it just wasn't the same for me. Now, it did open up some other opportunities for me because people were online more. So people wanted more content, which enabled me to help companies produce more content for their brand, which was good for me professionally. But personally, I think that I suffered greatly, and I'm still suffering greatly because of the recent surge of the new variant that has continued to cause us to still be separate. And we did get COVID over Christmas break, which was, thankfully we weren't sick. We were pretty much asymptomatic, but I still still nervous about going out, being around people, and it bothers me a whole lot. So there's a huge shift for me as a result of this pandemic. And, like you, Maureen, I like to make with other people. And of course, my heart is in teaching, prefer teaching over making, because at least I know at the end of the class, I would have told you what you need to know and you'd have made something. But if I'm making something myself, it'll take me forever and it'll never get done. There has to be some sort of end to it. Yeah, I'll be glad when it's over. And I just hope that my mental state is still intact when it is over. If it'll actually ever be over. Because I don't know that it will be. They said it's not going to go away. It'll just eventually die down. Well, Maureen, you probably know a lot more about it than I do.
I think, yeah, it's all out there. We're all trying to learn about it.
You're on the ground. I'm on Google.
I have heard 3 or 4 people who got COVID over the holidays, who interacted with family, who everyone was trying to be safe and sometimes required testing with family and this and that, and still got it. And I've observed there like a huge disappointment. Like they feel like they did everything they could and they've been gotten vaccinations, and they like almost a sheepish, like, yeah, we still got it. And it's like they say everyone should probably get it, or will not should get it, but will get it, and maybe more than once. Like there's almost like, it's almost like, what's that Netflix? It's almost like a Squid Game. It's like Squid Game and now you're out, right? Because you got it, you're not one of the ones who didn't get it yet, or something. And it's kind of like, there's almost like people, to me, expected that a lot of people would get it, but a lot of people who did are sort of, they feel bad, not just because from being sick, but that they got COVID, even though they felt like for 2 freaking years they were washing their hands and wearing a mask, and they got their shots, and they put I got boosted picture on Facebook, and encouraged other people, and then they got sick, and somehow it makes it, all the conflict in the media about people who think differently about things makes it seem like, oh, somehow they let their side down by getting, or so, I don't know, but I've heard that a lot of people, several people that I know personally who got it over the holidays, who feel, they have, I don't know, have some feelings about that. And that's too bad, but they'll go away, their feelings.
You said exactly how I felt. I was in disbelief. It's sort of like some sort of mark. You're like, oh my gosh, I have COVID? How did this happen when you've been like ducking and weaving for 2 years? You're like, you're not gonna get me. I've got on 8 masks and a face shield, and I'm not coming to your house. Drop it off at the door. I was really shocked. I was really shocked, and because I couldn't pinpoint where I may have picked it up, that's how few places I went. And I'm just like, yeah, it's airborne for sure, and it goes through your eyes. It goes to your eyes. Like, I'm convinced I should be wearing my glasses like you guys, and maybe I wouldn't have gotten it. But it was so funny yesterday. It's funny now. It wasn't funny yesterday when I was at the grocery store with my girls, and everyone was wearing the blue disposable surgical mask, and we were the only people in the store with cloth masks. And I'm thinking, like, I'm trying to keep up with what the CDC is saying, the guidelines are, because at first they said those masks were only 10% effective. So I told my whole family, throw those away. They don't work. You shouldn't wear those. If you're going to wear them, you have to wear 3. Don't wear them. And I'm just like, girls, I think we should go, because I'm going to guess our masks aren't helping us at all. So I went home and I ordered a bunch of the blue surgical masks off of Amazon.
Oh, right, right.
I can't, I really can't keep up. But now they're saying that you do have some level of immunity once you've had it, but they don't know how long it is and whatever. So I'm going, okay, we've had it. So maybe, I mean, it hasn't even been a full 2 weeks. So maybe we're still in the window of safety until our Amazon package comes in the mail with a blue surgical mask. It was sort of like a Twilight Zone moment when I just like looked around and I'm just like, oh my gosh, why are we the only ones? We should go.
It's funny, you get in a situation suddenly you don't feel safe from
It's definitely
everyone.
a weird feeling.
What are things like out on the left coast, Kevin?
Well, on the left coast, I mean, the numbers have been vertical lately. I don't think they're that high from a absolute perspective. Like compared to the 2 million residents or so in King County, which is where Seattle is. Like there's basically one county for Seattle, unlike Atlanta, where there were 10, but there were only, maybe 2,000 cases a day, which, I mean, that seems like a lot, but relative to 2 million, it's, you'll see 100 people and not one of them would have COVID. So I don't know. Everybody's still wearing masks. Everybody's getting vaccinated and boosted. I'm sure I'm going to get it at some point. I'm working around college kids, and college kids are notoriously bad at all of this. Nothing against college kids, but they have warped perceptions of risk. But yeah, everybody's masked at work. So it feels like exactly the same as the last 2 years. So it doesn't feel like much has changed. Although I hear of more people getting it these days.
Omicron isn't playing around.
They did a really nice event. I think you were part of it, Shar, over at the Maker Space. It was like, I forget the occasion, where they had several stations and they had families come in and they could make ornaments. They could do a resin pour. They could make some etched glass. Anyway, it was a very cool event. But I had the experience of, because I do go to work at a clinic during the day and I wear a mask all day. And then I'm working out of town, so I stay at a hotel. So except in my room or when I'm walking the dog and we're in my car, I'm wearing a mask through the hotel. So I found that I went to that event and we're masked in the space still. And I walked outside and I like ripped it off and I was like, why did I go somewhere I had to wear a mask? It's like I wear it all week and my weekends are mine to like breathe without it on. I don't find them a hardship, but it's just that one day, after 2 years, that one day, I was just like, today I'm tired of it today.
Yep. Everybody has a breaking point.
It's like, it's hard enough to get me to go out and do something social. And then now I have to wear a mask. Forget it.
I know it's hard. I'm tired of wearing a mask too. My kids laugh at me because I tell them I have $1 million smile. And I say it's $1 million because I've had a lot of dental work done. Like I grind my teeth, I wear crowns. I'm like, no one sees my smile anymore.
Right.
It's always covered up. So I'll be glad to take it off and show off my $1 million worth of dental work.
That's probably one of the reasons your social media is so appealing. We get to see your big smile on on Instagram. Yeah.
Such is life. I was supposed to start subbing at the kids' school, but now I am on the fence. Because I don't want to catch it and then give it to my kids again or give it to my husband. Somehow he escaped getting it. I just said we should take notes from him because he gets up at 4:00 every morning. He works out every day, doesn't eat anything after 6 o'clock, plant-based diet. And, like I said before, I'm throwing back cookies and ice cream at midnight. So he didn't get it, which is good. Now that we're over that hump, I am able to spend more time in the shop. And I will be back at the Makerspace next month teaching some classes. Oh, I have another funny story. Well, I don't know if it's funny, but it's interesting. Speaking of getting back to teaching and making, the other morning, radio stations, someone will call in with a problem. And then other listeners will call and chime in and give their opinion. And usually it's something silly, ridiculous. You're like, why would someone call the radio station and share their personal business? That's silly. But there was a guy that called in and he says, my wife quit her job 6 months ago to become a social media influencer, and she hasn't made any money. And I told her that she needs to go back and get a job. We're digging into our savings, and nothing is happening. She's telling me she can make X amount of dollars as a social media influencer. Now, I'm driving. I would never call into a radio station. It's not really my thing, but that shot off so many red flags. So I'm like at the stoplight dialing, and when you call into a radio station, it's busy. On the third time, it started ringing, and they said, "What's your comment?" And I said, first of all, I basically said, that is what I did 6 years ago. And my husband supported me, and it took me 5 years to actually make some money. And I'm talking to them, and they're like, okay, what do you do? Where do you do it? So they now want to come to the makerspace and take a class. So we're going to get something set up next month for them to come. And I'm thinking that is going to be huge for Decatur Makers, right? Because they're one of the largest radio stations in Atlanta. And I have a feeling that they broadcast in another market, because after I was on the radio station, I think I instantly got like 200 more followers. And then later that night, people were messaging me and said, I just heard you on the radio. And I'm thinking they must broadcast somewhere else in the evening. So, I've always said from the beginning that I was going to make sure Decatur Makers was like internationally known, right? So every chance I get to plug it, I'm like, yeah, did you know that this place exists? And a lot of people don't even know that maker spaces exist, right? I've had so many calls about how do I start a makerspace. I'm like, well, first, let me put you in touch with some people who know more than me, because I'm not sure. I just kind of showed up. And one day Kevin asked me to start teaching, and that's how that started. And then whenever someone's like, we need a volunteer, I'm like, okay, I'll go. I just think it's super important to let people know that we exist and we're there for the community, because I know what making has done for me. After this, the COVID thing and the holidays and everything, it's like therapy to make, especially when you haven't done it in a while. I just turn on some tunes and it makes me happy. So we were on TV. I don't know if you guys knew that. There was a commercial that was filmed at the Makerspace last month. It's either November or December. It aired on television station TV1. It's online now. Maybe we'll drop the link somewhere.
Yeah.
If people want to check it out. So yeah, I'm giving Decatur Makers all the shine right now, letting people know we're there so they can make too. They can find time to make, since we're open 24 hours.
Cool. That's a cool story about driving in and calling. Wait, give it a few more years. Don't give up on her.
Yeah, it takes time. It actually takes time, but I'm glad all of us are in a position where we're doing something that we enjoy doing, right?
Yeah, I had a cool connection at work. The clinic that I work with, the staff is just, they're amazing, and they've been just flat out busy, open through the whole pandemic, and ever more busy. And they've even taken on more staff, and they had a very nice, they had a very nice tradition over the holiday where they gave gifts and things that I wasn't aware of. And so I got a bunch of gifts, but one of them was like emblazoned with a vinyl cutout with my name on it. And I was like, hey, I didn't realize this had my name. I was like, wait a minute, someone here has a Cricut machine. And then, oh yeah, a couple of them did. And so I like fell into like some people who were makers, but not identified as makers, and they had done some other things. Do you do any etching? They're like, oh yeah, we do etching and this and that. And something else they did. And so we fell into talking about Decatur Makers. And I said, oh, you can look it up. And I don't know if there's one around here. They're like, well, yeah, check and see if there's one of those maker spaces around here. And I was like, oh yeah, you got to get into the laser.
Yes. Kevin, I wanted to ask you, Kevin, about the makerspace where you work. Is it similar to Decatur Makers and the type of activities and tools that are available?
It's very different in the way that it was envisioned and the group that it serves. So for those that don't know, I'm working at the University of Washington in a department called the Global Innovation Exchange. And it's basically got a master's program that spits out Internet of Things engineers or entrepreneurs. So a lot of it is creating connected devices. So there's a heavy electronics focus, a heavy 3D printing focus to make enclosures. It has very similar equipment, but it's not open to the public. It's basically just supporting that one program plus some companies that actually pay to be a member. Like T-Mobile just signed up a bunch of engineers to be members in our makerspace, so they can come by. So it's got a much more business focus than traditional community makerspaces do, but we still have a lot of the similar fun stuff. Like we've done ping pong catapults and stuff like that for just fun projects, just to get people making something with their hands.
That's exciting. So are there people there that provide training or education for someone who is attempting to do a project but may not have the knowledge or the resources to get that project accomplished?
Yeah, so that's me, and I actually have 6 student workers that work underneath me or that I manage, and so I trained all of them to also do training. So they're supporting their peers as well as the companies that send engineers in. So yes, we don't have as much of a schedule associated with it. So like a regular class schedule, it's more of somebody comes in and says, "Hey, I want to learn how to make this," and we're like, "All right, let me show you what I know," and we go from there.
That's exciting. And that sounds very perfect for you, Kevin.
It's a really good fit. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it because you are so versatile with your skill set and your knowledge you and Maureen. I always tell like my goal is to have friends that are smarter than me and know more than me. I'm like, I have one lane. You give me a piece of wood, I'm going to stay in that lane. Know your strengths.
Hey, it's good to specialize too.
Those engineers, Kevin, when they come in, are they just coming in to work on their own projects, or are they actually, innovating T-Mobile projects, or is there a mix?
It's usually the latter because T-Mobile pays for their stuff. Now, we just signed them up and we don't have a whole lot of other corporate sponsor folks. Well, we have lots of corporate sponsors, but not as many members of the makerspace. So the students end up doing these capstone projects at the end of their time, and those are all sponsored by companies. So T-Mobile is a big one, and there are several others. We expect that the engineers they'll send in will probably be working on projects for T-Mobile.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any of your training available like online? Do you have any sort of pre-processed training? Sort of like here's an introduction kind of thing?
Not yet. I'm always wary of some of those because we have lots of resources, but time is like the one resource. Time and expertise are the 2 resources that we're kind of constrained on. So the more I can leverage outside sources of those information, like the more I can find somebody else's video showing how to use a Shopbot CNC or somebody else's video on how to use a table saw. We try to do more of that,
right,
rather than having our own videos. And even if we had videos, I would still want to actually talk to the person and make sure they absorbed all that was in that video. You can say, "Oh yeah, I know how to use a table saw. I watched Mark Spagnolo do a whole bunch of stuff on the table saw. I'm an expert now." And then when they come in, they're like, "So wait, where's the power button?" And I can cross cut this with the fence, right? And it's like, no. All right, let's take a step back.
Scroll it back in.
Yeah.
That's I know I took our introduction to 3D printing twice, and then went in to do something and ask John O, who was there, and I was like, I can't quite get this to work, and he's like, is there G code on this file? And I was like, oh, I forgot to slice the I mean, I just like, I thought I knew a thing or two, but it turns out you needed really to know about 5 things. and that's after like taking the class and then taking it again just for refresher. And then you went in to do it, and until you've like got the muscle memory of all the little things. I think that's probably the same with a lot of things, probably some of the woodworking things too, until you've actually turned on the saw stop and adjusted the blade and made a cut and then put the, cleaned up after yourself. You really don't absorb the whole process, I don't think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so true.
I'm sure you both have probably heard of this, but there's this concept in pedagogy of the illusion of fluency, where because you've been exposed to it, you think that you understand it. And it shows up in a lot of places where you listen to a lecture and you feel like you could repeat it back. But the minute you go to test that assumption by, say, taking a quiz, or somebody asks you, so what do they cover in class? And you're like, well, we covered I don't know. Let me go look at my notes. So that shows up in everything, which is why every class I've ever taught has had a strong hands-on component, because when somebody's actually done the thing, then they can refer back to that experience. You can't fake that you remembered how to do the thing when you physically did it. Yeah, and then that's a challenge. That's a challenge in teaching it. I think the way that it's typically suggested that be handled is through testing early and often. Take quizzes before introducing the information and see how well folks do. And turns out, according to studies, that actually increases how much you learn. Taking a test with no information given to you ahead of time, where you check your knowledge before actually learning it, turns out that helps. So hands-on stuff is kind of like a test.
That's interesting, Kevin. I never thought about that. That's a good idea.
I know we always talk about making as being hands-on experiences, but that's really, there's so much technology available, and there's so much DIY stuff. And really, until you've made, a keychain on the glow forge or a push thing on the wood with the wood cutter, what's on the saw? Obviously not a wood shop person, but until you've done it with your own hands, it's theoretical, and then when you've done it, about 100 things you want to make with it come to mind.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to move. We did a class that we called Arduino On-Ramp, which I've probably talked about it before, but the idea was some of the guys who taught our basic electronics Arduino classes would get frustrated because people would come to the class without having had the software. Like they were always starting at step -1 with people. And so like the actual build of the class was difficult to get completed. And so this was a class really was to just get people with the software on, make sure they could connect, just the rudimentary things. And then we built a little project. So my thinking was I was going to put that on as an online class and make it available online. But that's a whole project unto itself, is creating an online class. So.
I know you should. I would watch it.
Yes.
I would attend the online class.
Yeah, you could go back and review it and watch it and do it again and see, oh, wait, I see they put that wire there and not there.
Well, and if you just add a single Google form quiz at the end of it, I'll bet it'll be like 20 times more effective.
And at the beginning and frequently.
And in between.
Quizzed.
Yeah.
Prepare for quizzing.
Yeah, that's definitely a neat idea. I'm one of those kind of people that needs to review something over and over. I think it takes me 10 or 15 times before I can just remember it. I had a favorite pancake recipe that I would make, Martha Stewart's pancakes, and I would make them every Sunday for brunch for, I don't know, like 5 years straight. And I would ask myself, why do I have to look at the recipe every Sunday? Until I said, okay, it's been like 6 months. I'm going to commit this recipe to memory to where I don't need it anymore, but I need that repetition and I need something to look at to remind me of the steps, because our brains take in more information than we know. And for busy people, sometimes we just don't take the time to decompress and figure out something to do with the information that's at the front of our brains. We just keep it all there and it gets jumbled up. And you put something weird in your pancakes.
Well, and
not that I did that.
There are lots of ways even to speed up that kind of learning. Repetition does work. But if you were to also say, all right, I'm going to look at this card for a minute and then I'm going to put it away and I'm going to write down everything that I thought was on there. I'll bet that you would learn that in a day. Like, it's just, there are ways, like, that's kind of like the same test concept. That's why flashcards work so well, because they're immediate tests where you can't fool yourself that, oh yeah, I actually knew it was on the other side of the card. It's like, well, but you didn't say the thing that's on the other side of the card. I'm not sure how we translate that to making exactly, but
well, you can. I mean, for a real life example, like, I hadn't, for the first time in several years, I went almost a month without making anything. And I went back out in the shop and I was doing something and I'm just like, oh, wait a minute. How did I do that before? And I'm thinking, how did I forget that, first of all? But it had been such a long time. So that repetition is super important. I think also I was so tired of school when I graduated from college that I probably did not want to learn anything else academically at the time. So I forgot how to learn and, try to teach my kids how to study and how to prepare for a test. It's just bringing it all back. And virtual school made it worse. And it just reminded me how bad I was at math, where they're like, can you help me? I'm like, nope, past fifth grade. I got nothing for you. Ask your father. Wasn't my strong suit.
Nope. Get a calculator.
I got you covered. History, science, art, social studies. Ask mom. Everything else, ask your father.
Can you help me? Nope. This is the age where you begin helping me.
Exactly. I'm like, how do you work this TV remote again? Oh, you just press this button. I mean, they're helping me with like TikTok. I guess everybody's on TikTok now. I go, how do you post a video and how do you add music? Just give me your phone. Okay, thank you. Now that I feel old, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know how. I do think, I'm just thinking of my own. I am grateful for the structure that, like, sort of what they call didactic teaching provides, gives you some structure for where to put information that I fall back on a lot. It's not the information itself. It just gives you some, I don't know that these kids, for 2 years with no schooling, really
Crazy.
I'm hoping it's good. Maybe it's a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of have an education system based on some old principles. So maybe that's will be a good thing.
Yeah, we do. And I really do cringe at the way our society has positioned learning in the way that we teach students. And I don't think it's great. I mean, that's just how it is in America, but there's places like Finland and Denmark that take a completely different approach to the way that children learn. I think some Montessori schools here probably do that as well. But I feel for our kids, because I don't think the way things are taught now are the best way for every child to learn, because every child learns different. But I won't get on my soapbox about that, because that's a whole nother podcast.
Anything on your mind, Kevin, that we didn't get to?
Oh, lots of stuff on my mind, but nothing related to making.
Okay. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Life. I had to go down last night. I was like, 30 minutes. Okay. 30 minutes. I can't get anything done, but I was like, go down and open something up and do 30 minutes worth of move that project along this much. So it's not a very big chunk of time to accomplish that.
Hey, but if you make that consistent, it adds up fast.
Been telling me that
True.
in high school. I remember my high school chemistry professor, 20 minutes a day and you'll know everything about chemistry in a year. I couldn't pull it off.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it that day. 20 minutes, gracious. I'm trying to learn Python, Circuit Python.
Mm-hmm.
I run into some hurdles because it's Adafruit. It's from Adafruit's Python on hardware, and they really recommend the Mu editor, which is made by the Python Foundation. And my laptop won't open it.
Oh no!
It's okay, but this laptop won't open it, so I have to use it on a different machine, and I always forget that. And then, like the tutorial that I really like is using that editor, and so some of the steps are actually, because you can use Visual Studio Code, you can use anything that you code in Python and upload it to the board, but it works better when you do it like the tutorial.
So I actually just bought some Raspberry Pi Picos to play around with exactly this, just to
Yeah.
keep up with the kids these days.
Right.
So can you just drop a .py file onto the drive, or does it have to be the .uf2 or whatever it
Well,
is?
for Circuit Python, you have to put the UF2 on. Once you put the UF2 on, then you have Circuit Python on that chip. Then you could it could be code.py or something else .py. It could be two things. You can call the code. Yeah, but you could just redo it and drop it on that, and then it changes the code.py. It changes the program that's on there. So you can do it with Visual Studio Code. You just can't, the REPL doesn't run as the same way. It's not, there's probably people who can do it very easily. The one I'm following, there's a guy, John Gallagher, who teaches at I think Boston College, and he did a whole Circuit Python like series on YouTube using the Circuit Python, what's it called? Circuit Playground Express.
Oh yeah.
It means you don't have to have a bunch of peripherals. It has a bunch of sensors and buttons all on the board. So I threw it in my backpack and thought I would be doing that, when I was out of town. I could just practice it. But I can't, and I think it might have something to do with my antivirus, but I can't find any information on why it won't open the Moo editor. It used to open it, now it doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah, I tried the Mu editor at one point, and it was frustrating. It didn't have like the same code highlighting that I was used to. It had this weird way of like you could accidentally overwrite your file and just lose it.
Yeah,
really
you
easily.
gotta save it in like you either have to save it on,
Yeah, it's really inelegant, which I am not a fan of. I'll have to dig into that. There may be a way I usually use Atom when I'm doing code editing.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure there's probably a plugin. I just need to dig into it. Sorry, we kind of nerded out on that a little bit.
Totally. Hey, have your moment. I'm like, yeah, one day I'll get there.
Well, there's another woman, what's her name? Cecilia Hillary. I follow her on Twitter. She does these cute little animations, and her whole thing is, I don't like to be on videos. So I made this little animated me. And then she made an Instructable, and I was like, I'm going to make an animated me so I don't have to be on videos. But then it uses a microbit, and I only have a version 1, and you have to have a version 2. And I was like, oh, but I have this Adafruit Clue. It's just supposed to be like the same thing, but it's not, because she wrote hers in MakeCode, and MakeCode doesn't work on the Clue. And it's like
getting that tool chain right can be a
my
pain.
30 minutes is up. And I have accomplished nothing.
Well, that's what Python is known for.
Yeah.
Bad tool chain problems.
I did find my clue.
Yeah.
So that was one progress. But that's it. Shall we wrap up?
All right. Take care, folks. And remember to make stuff. Isn't that one of my better ones?
Hey, makers, be great and live passionately. See you next time.
All right, makers, signing off. Get out there and make it good.